Yo, so this morning I was shrooming and I was out doing this little nature walk, and I was thinking about how there's this part in this book. I just sent it to you. It's like a book series, and it's about this kid who is like, he doesn't know it, but he is like the son of like a fairy king, and he has like just like massive untapped potential, but also as far as he knows, he's a normal kid. And it's about like his sort of like discovery process of slowly learning that he is not normal and that he's special and that he has like a ton of hidden potential. And so like he gets like taken into this magical school where like it's a school for magical children, and he like slowly over time just sort of like distinguishes himself because he's like really good at certain things, and they're all like physical things. Like he's really good at sports, like and but also like there's this element where like he's only ever as good as he pushes himself to be. And this is really, I think it's really brilliantly written part of the story where essentially like it turns out he's basically got like untapped unlimited potential. Like he can grow as much as he wants, but he has to find like the right situations to challenge and sharpen him. And so like first is good at sports, and then he finds like this, like it's like a test chamber in the bottom of the school that tests people on their physical ability. And he starts at the lowest level, and he just like climbs through all the levels, um and maxes it out. And then he later on learns that like no one has ever done that, and not only has no one ever done that, most of the top levels were thought to be like theoretical, just because like no one had ever tried them. Because and so like so he learns he's really good at like physical like feats of speed and strength tests. And then there's this other part where he essentially meets a woman who is like a fairy warrior and works for his dad, the fairy king or whatever. And she is like she's way better than he is, and it's the first time he's ever met someone who's better than he is. And then she takes him and he goes to like this place, and they train him to be better. And it's like it's a training montage, but also there's just like this powerful feeling that like his potential has is like limitless. He's never found a challenge that he wasn't eventually able to overcome. And also it's just like, but also like he only has as much like power and potential in the moment as the challenges that he has completed. And there are definitely challenges that are too great for him to overcome because he hasn't like ramped up to them appropriately, if that makes sense. Like he needs to the next challenge needs to be slightly larger than the last challenge. If the next challenge is too much greater than the last challenge, it will be too big for him and he will fail. So he can grow infinitely, but he has to grow in increments, not in huge leaps and bounds. And then there's this really like brilliant sort of like arc towards the end of the series where essentially like there's this like faction in the magical world of people who are really into science and computer science and technology, and they have like crazy advanced technology, um, of the type that you can only get when you mix magic and technology. And they essentially like they get into a fight with him. They capture some of his like DNA somehow from like one of his hairs or something, and then they successfully clone two clones of him. And then they train the two clones to be like savage, really powerful fighters. And because they're his clones, they are him. They have all the potential that he has. Um, and but the way that they train them is very different because like he's like sort of like progressing through life, sort of like learning in a very haphazard way. But his clones, that was not the case at all. They're trained to be vicious killers in a fraction of the time, because the people are who developed them have like these testing chambers where like they can manipulate matter in the chambers and also like devise scenarios for the clones to practice against. And so they literally have the clones like running scenarios and practicing and trying to get better, um, like constantly for years and years and years. And the clones are just like they're a fraction of his age, but they're as developed as he is after going through all of his like extensive training with the fairy warriors that he trained with. And it's just like the reason it stands out to me so much is because like it feels like a close analog of my life, and also I think for anyone's life. It's like there's just like life can teach you to be better, but a lot of people are not paying attention and not trying to be better intentionally. So a lot of people are better like haphazardly. Like for me, writing software, I'm very dependent on my notes because like I'm not smart enough to hold it all in my mind. But I know a lot of people who are that smart, and they casually have never taken notes and have been doing software for decades, and they just kind of remember it all. And I'm just like, what the fuck do you mean you remember it all? I can't even picture that. But um, and so like for them, like the type of progression in challenge that they would need is just like so much different from the type of progression in challenge that I need. I think it's like I don't want to say that they're smarter than me because I think they are smarter than me, but I don't think it's that much smarter. I think they just have a different brain. You know, I have ADHD. I don't think they do, and so like I've had to like go about finding incremental challenges for myself in a very different way, and I feel like I am those two clones who uh, they trained themselves on simulations, or at least like they were trained on simulations. They never learned by experience in the real world, and it took them a fraction of the time, but it was also very artificial, um, and uh, and they don't have like I guess like so he eventually defeats them. He defeats them, but just barely, and he gets seriously wounded in the process, and also an interesting thing about the clones is that they were trained in different ways. So one of them is trained to be like a brawler, I guess. Like he's trained to be like a fighter. The other one is trained to be sort of like like the rogue character in Dungeons and Dragons where like there's a character who's like he's trained to backstab, and use sub like to sneak up and also use poisons and stuff. And uh I don't know. I just like I think about that a lot because I feel like that's what I'm doing with myself is I am sort of like I'm devising scenarios against which to challenge myself, and when I challenge myself successfully for enough time, then I become permanently better. And I feel like that is like it's very artificial, but it works. And I think a lot of people, I think, would benefit from this methodology of devising artificial challenges for yourself that actually match um, your current skill level, so that you can like ratchet up the challenges in fine increments and incrementally improve yourself in a very like measured and steady way. And also, I don't know, just it feels very important that people be able to um, improve themselves reliably without talent. Because I think like essentially all of the best people that I know um, are the best because they're talented. They just like are naturally gifted, and that's fine. But um, but I wonder how much better they could be if they were taking my route. Because I think like even though they're naturally gifted, also they are mostly um, just like sort of resting on their laurels. Like they rely on their talent, and if you took it from them, they would be where I am, which is like uh, not doing so hot. And yeah, I don't know. I just thinking about that.